trining Pluto. They're both at 0, and they will trine this entire week, November 18th. So it's November 18th and the following 7 days. This is our regular weekly video that we do just to keep us aware of what's going on up there so that we better understand what's going on right here down here. This is likely going to be an intense week. Okay, so let's get the chart on the screen all the way. Here's the setup for the week. And, I have purposely picked out some of the main things because there's a lot here. One of the things I want to touch on real quickly before I talk about any dates is some of the backstories that are with us for the entire week and for the beginning of November and through the month of November. And this is the Neptune. Neptune's now at 27 degrees. The 27 degree itself is important. So we think of news, we think of social media, we think of the conversations we're having, we think of the mind. It's a Mercury degree, okay? So communications and learning and speaking and writing. And then you have to also keep in the back of your head, if it's a Mercury degree, Mercury rules Gemini. Gemini is definitely the news and social media. And we know Jupiter is there and that Jupiter's in a retrograde. You see? So we'll bring Jupiter back into the fold a little bit further because there's a couple of aspects here. There's an opposition and there's some trine energy, but it matters because it's all about Mercury, right? Mercury rules this. So it's what we're talking about, what's in the news, what we're thinking about. And Jupiter, well, that's the justice system and that's judges. So whether that's federal, state, whatever level, wherever you're at, that's, the courtroom and justice for all and that whole type of thing, that whole type of scenario. So we kind of just got to always keep that in mind because that is absolutely the backstory and will continue to be the backstory. It's not going away anytime soon. All right. So with that said, we start off at the beginning of the week with the sun sitting at 26 degrees. And that's Scorpio energy. So that's shared values, shared interest, our natural resources. So we think of air, earth, water, like the planet. Right. Because Scorpio is something that is a digger, is a driller, right? It's below the surface. I always call it like the super detective. But we think of things that we have to mine for, we think of oil, we think of precious metals, any earthy stuff, right? Things that we have to kind of dig below the surface to find and to get, and they are of value. So the sun is an authority figure and it's at 26 degrees. For this week, it will move. The sun will go all the way. So in 7 days' time, next Monday, the sun will be in Saggy at 4 degrees. Okay. Now, while the sun is in Scorpio, it stays there until the 21st. So the 21st, I think, is Wednesday or something. Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday. Thursday. I'm thinking of particular public figures charts that have fixed energy, like at 26 degrees in their chart. So I think here at the beginning of the week, we're already hearing stuff. We're already like there's stuff in the news, public figures for sure, because 26 degrees in the fixed signs. So that's Scorpio, a Taurus, Leo, Aquarius. So Leo and Aquarius energy receives a square from the sun being an authority figure. Okay. So if you got anything in Leo, 20, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, it's a square. It's stress and tension this week. Okay. And that square, you'll probably feel it all the way until Friday, even and until the sun has comfortably moved into Sagittarius, till it's like at 1 degrees, 2 degrees of Saggy. So that's stress and tension. Leo energy can be, again, politicians, public figures. It's entertainment, taking a risk with my body, your children, your laughter, your joy, your creativity. When we talk about those higher degrees, though, 26, 27, 28, 29, ooh, we all know about the 29 degree of Leo. And of course, the lion stands up on cue when I say that. The lion, the kitty cat, Taffy. So the point to that is that the Leo degree and someone in charge, that's the king degree. That's the I am the king. You are my subjects. I am above you. Um, you know, those rules don't apply to me. They're only for thee, right? Like I don't have to be concerned with those. Those are applicable to my subjects only, and I'm here to rule the kingdom. That's that 29 degree of Leo. So for those who have a lot of things in your chart, which you might, just depends on your chart, you might have like a cluster there. Scorpio can be a fighter. This can be somebody who, has the authority in some way, shape, or form to create some stress and tension to Leo and Aquarius. I know. She's like, can I get my elbow spot back? So at the opposition would be Taurus energy, right? So again, 26, 27, 28, 29. Oppositions are also can be kind of stressful. It's like that, it's that power play. I got someone of power down here, someone of power here. And so it's kind of like a teeter totter or a push and pull, like a tug of war, it's described as. So that's fixed energy. Either way, with fixed energy, nobody wants to budge, and it's usually difficult. All right. What else do you see at 29? Yeah, we see Pluto there at 2958 in Capricorn. Right. So that's a sextile. That's going to sextile the Scorpio energy. So when the sun gets there at that 27, 28, 29, it's created a powerful, intense sextile with somebody of power, possibly someone of power who's within the government structure and order, someone who has been assigned a job and a duty. Like that's Capricorn energy. This is also corporations, right? But we always think of big business and government when we see Pluto in Capricorn, and usually power, power plays, and the whole point of Pluto is to see who's abusing their power. And Pluto comes through, and the whole bell tolling and all that. And it's a long process, right? Because Pluto's been here before. This isn't the first time, but it takes multiple times for Pluto to really get to the nitty gritty and to truly get to the root of the problem. So, with that said, that takes me to a little bit of the backstory of what Mercury's doing this week. In this chart, I have Mercury in Saggy at 19. That's where Mercury begins. Okay. This week moves along. Mercury's going to get to, I believe, 22 degrees for this week, 18 to 22. And I've got the color red there for a reason, because when Mercury gets to that 22 degrees, it begins its retrograde. Between 6 and 21, 22 degrees of Sagittarius, that was all shadow zone. Representing Mercury's shadow zone area. All right. And that matters because it means it's something we're going to hear about again. It's a redo, it's a do over, we don't have all the details yet. So Mercury does a retrograde, goes backwards, goes all the way back. The judicial system, the justices, the courtroom, the judges, the judgments, lots of a flurry of activity since September, end of September, right at the beginning of October. So October, November, December. Oh my gosh. The astrology charts have been just flooded with Jupiter energy because Jupiter's retrograde, number one, right? Yeah. But then you have Mercury doing a retrograde in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. Okay. So that's some of the details. If you got these degrees and these locations in your chart, just kind of understand these things. And I've got Jupiter there because it's in a grand air trine this entire week. And the grand air trine in Aquarius, we have the asteroid America, And we also have Hermes. They're at 18 degrees. Jupiter doesn't really move. Yes, it's a retrograde, but it's a slow mover. And so too are these, especially America, right? Not a fast mover. So for this whole week, that's a nice trine there, strong trine. And this is directly from the software. This is a name given to the lands in the Western Hemisphere, honoring the explorer Amerigo Vespucci. Often is used as a nickname for the United States. It has the us versus them attitude. It's a feeling that being part of a group justifies your behavior. It's identifying strongly with a group, a culture, a way of life, but there is a focus on business or corporate dealings and finances in particular. Definitely group energy, but this is social causes, social justice, right? This is liberties and freedom and independence and recognizing one's civil liberties and human rights, right? And taking care of the group. So there's a very strong trine with Jupiter to this, very strong. And Hermes is also about information. When Hermes comes through, Hermes is kind of that connection to the other side. It is the ancient scribe when we see Hermes, the ancient scribe, the ancient one who would bring on information that was literally kind of being channeled, and it's that connection to the higher source. We think Aquarius energy, in my mind, and this part I could be a little bit subjective to, that Hermes rules Aquarius energy. Some might argue with that though, which is perfectly fine. But we think space, we think technology and inventions, we think alternative forms of power, right? We think different and new, shocks and surprises, Aquarius energy. And so Hermes is connected with the group energy here, and it's trined by the justice system. It's trined by Jupiter. We'll see what that means. The 18 degrees is specific. I'll tell you about that in a second to give more meaning. But the other trine is with Black Moon Lilith. Some would say, oh Lord, is this a trine we want? Right. A trine just means something easily occurs. It just easily happens. So when Black Moon Lilith is involved, usually we associate that with, oh God, it's a series of events that I'm not especially fond of or considered undesirable. It talks about partnerships. And so there might be some of the hidden, some of the stuff we didn't see or that we weren't aware of. Black Moon Lilith talks about like the shadow side of a person's personality. So it's within relationships. At 22, at the beginning of this week, she's retrograding. So this whole week, as she goes backwards, there is a strong trine, a strong air trine with the 18 degrees. Okay. So especially at the beginning of the week, because as the week gets further on down the line, that black moon will get back all the way to 11 degrees by Monday. She moves fast sometimes, really. She's kind of, she's very sporadic in her speed. So by Monday, she gets to 11, but then she goes direct. She'll go forward again. You see? So she's working the degrees between the 11 and the 22. And that's a focus in Jupiter where Gemini and Jupiter energy in that retrograde, right, starts at 20, 21, 22 degrees and goes back to like 11 degrees. And the 18 degrees for us specifically at the beginning of this week, healthcare, it's the details, it's the minutia, it is the health, because we think of the Virgo degree when we think of that number 18. Think of Virgo, so jobs reports, but think of the service industry. We've got nurses and those who, I often think of my mom's workers who come in and help in the home, clean up, and we think of people who are harvesters, gardeners, people who are literally picking fruit, right? Some would say it's not so glamorous. Just kind of, they're the silent workforce, I call them, because they're there. We can't function without them, but they're kind of unseen. I mean, we see them, but yet we take them for granted. So I kind of call them unseen. Who else is that? There might be some other jobs that I haven't thought of that you can add and put into the comments there to kind of just give more definitions and more meaning to Virgo. But remember, Virgo, day-to-day routine, structure, really good at organizing, cleanliness, the details, the minutia, the connecting of the dots, trying to get to the big picture. So it can be hypercritical and overly critical. So all of us will have to kind of just be aware of that. But the details for sure, 18 degrees, and it's hyper air. So thoughts, thinking, and communication. We got Virgo and Mercury, Virgo and Gemini energy activated with this air trine. Talks and communication, documents, because we think of contracts, right? Contracts, because we've got Libra there, work contracts, stuff like that. Now, we then are going to take a look at Venus, because when we talk about contracts, we're thinking about money and we're thinking about values. And look where Venus is. Venus is in Capricorn at 8. And at the end of this week, she'll be at around 22, 23 degrees. So you're hearing a lot of similar numbers. We're in a lot, like some of the zones that we're in are very similar. It's all like 22 and below. So far, the numbers that I've talked about, there's like a 10-degree thing happening. So again, business and government and corporations. All right. Venus at 8, she'll end the week around 22. Tomorrow on this chart, we have Pluto going to 0 degrees on the 19th. Pluto is going to hit 0 degrees in Aquarius, and it'll be conjunct Hercules. At 0 degrees of Aquarius. Okay, so again, group energy is empowered. We think unions and contracts, because I've already mentioned that, right? Because now Pluto is back in the union and organizing energy, because this is definitely about organizing groups and social causes. So there's power, intense power here this week, for sure. Now, the connection to the air is even stronger, because Sedna this week, Sedna, slow mover, she moves more than twice as slow as Pluto. Sedna, also about power, but this is feminine energy, feminine power, the wounds of the past, the wounds of the past, how to make these wrongs right. This is Sedna energy trining Pluto. They're both at 0, and they will trine this entire week. These two will be trining for weeks to come, because they both move slow. So we'll go a little bit deeper into that as the minutes get closer in the following week's video. But remember, it's Sedna with Gemini. So just start filling in all those Gemini keywords, okay? But remember, 0 is an extreme degree. So it's intense power. So, Sedna is water. It's a water goddess. All right. Older than Pluto. Right. I know a lot of folks don't want to hear that. We just cut, we're dealing with hurricanes and flooding, and people don't want to hear about these things. But having Pluto go into air and that trine being there, it can increase the power of communication, power of thought, power of air, power of talking, power of organizing, power of networking individually and within a group. All right. And so we see with Pluto going into the unions, right? Going into the group energy and the power to the little people. That's Pluto in Aquarius. Now, let's also clarify this. It doesn't mean only one thing, because it can add power to individuals. And we usually have the rise of authoritarians and fascism. You follow me, you show loyalty to me, not to your country, but to me. I'm your ruler, type of thing. And so Pluto and Aquarius is that. So the people have more power as long as they remember that their power is when they are unified. The people have the power as long as they stay unified. Okay. So Mars is in Leo. I know I have these red lines drawn. I'm going to tell you what they mean in a second. The significance, because we're going to wrap it all up. Mars is in Leo at 4 degrees here. Okay. It's going slow. It's going very slow because it's preparing for the Mars retrograde. I know who the hell wants to hear this. It's more fun news because Mars is considered the great malefic, right? Depends on your chart. Saturn could be your malefic energy, but Mars, when it's in a retrograde, ooh, it's not usually very fun. The only thing I can add to this is that it being in a retrograde in Leo hopefully can increase some joy and laughter and optimism and play and comedy and jokes. It is highly uh, demon- demonstrative. It is highly performance energy. You think of the ringmaster, right? You think of somebody who can, possibly be really powerful vocalist even. Mars goes up a full notch when it begins a retrograde. Okay. The retrograde does not begin this week, but Mars is only moving to 5 degrees by the end of the week, which means Mars only moves 1 degree this week. Normally, Mars moves about 4 degrees in a week's time. So it's this 4 and 5 degrees that it's a really big deal in Leo energy. Those red lines are drawn for her because she goes from 22 to 11. All right. So what that means is that with Black Moon Lilith, she's in a square energy to cardinal energy automatically. So she's going to have harsh angles that she's throwing because she can move fast between 22 and 11. And that square is stress and tension, Cancer energy. Okay. Cancer energy and Capricorn energy, which means Black Moon Lilith and Venus will be squaring this week. Our values, my money, my long-term goals, my ambitions, and partnerships. Okay. Black Moon Lilith and the long-term financial security. So, all in all, when we look at this chart and we try to make sense of it, we see that there's a lot of stress and tension because even the freaking trines include things like Black Moon Lilith, right? And then we have the intensity in air because it's a grand air trine in the chart, but we have the intensity added with Pluto at 0, trining Sedna. Okay, so it's definitely an increase in communication and talking, but there's also a lot of intense power with Pluto and Sedna. The past, the history, feminine energy, wounds, uses, abuses, female energy just done wrong in a lot of different ways because that's the story of Sedna. It's betrayal by masculine energy. And I'm not talking like strangers either. This could be somebody was like a partner, somebody that you were intimate with. It could be a father figure. It could be both. Yes. A lot of um, sad, sad history with the Sedna energy. Betrayal, abandoned after she was used and abused and basically left. Yeah. Anyway, I will also add here that Sedna's story does include her being pregnant. Right. And then kind of just taken somewhere and dropped off, like as if, out of sight, out of mind type of thing. So Sedna's story, I think, is probably part of the bigger story this week, even though there's a whole lot of big stories going on, because more courtroom energy, lawyers, the justice system. Pallas Athena is feminine energy. All right. And it's a trine to Chiron, to the wounds of the past. I've been through this before. These wounds about my body and my appearance, my freedoms, my liberty, my body, my right, my choice, mind your damn business. There's a health report card here about the health of the freedoms, right? And then there's Eris, more female energy, who's quite angry because she never had a seat at the table. She may have even have been allowed into the room, but she was not allowed to speak. She was not acknowledged or recognized. So she's pissed. She's pissed. And so there's a report card here with feminine energy and their freedom and their right to speak, their recognition and to be heard, to be seen and heard, and for their words to have weight, to be considered, to be acknowledged, to be recognized, and to have a say. To have a say. So the wounds of the past are big. And it's not just feminine energy that is part of this, but your appearance. If you are judged for your appearance in any way, shape, or form, that is part of this Chiron history. The wounds of the body, particularly, can be the wounds of the head and the lack of thinking that happens. That will truly be a part of the story for a lot of different names, public figures in this week's video, in this week's news, we'll put it like that. There was a lot. Just, find your happy place and visit it often. Do what you need to do to unplug, to detach, to decompress, and understand that eventually this too shall pass. All right. So we will begin next week talking a little bit more about Sedna and Pluto, talking a little bit more about the Mars retrograde, because that's when it begins. It begins next week. There is a separate video for that. If you want to check that out, to figure that out, how that works out in your chart. So I'll see you guys. That's it. See you in the next one. Thank you for your time. I always appreciate it. All right. Take care.